The other day I was asked if I wanted to do a speech, and I only usually do short speeches, but I've been hanging out with Colin there as he's doing great work on my bus, and I wanted to write, I'm interested in the deep philosophy of our movement, which is forming at the moment, and the rising mythology of it, and this isn't written to you guys. This is being inspired by the men in this room. I have found this group to be the most inspirational group of all the groups I've met all around Australia, especially the men. But around Australia, I keep getting asked, where are the men? So while I've been helping Colin with the bus and getting grease on my fingers, I've written this, and it's called Rise, My Silent Brothers, Rise. When I was 3, my Uncle David, who was a living superhero to me, pulled me onto his lap and let me steer his delivery van through the streets of our small town in Wales. And as I giggled, I pissed my pants all over his legs. That is my clearest, earliest memory, and I'm amazed I can still find it. Fortunately, even though I was only a little boy, I'd cleverly filed it under the category called a man. A while later, when I was about 10, my family was picnicking near a waterfall in South Australia. The waterfall had a natural slide, and teenage boys were sliding down it. Then, as we all watched, an excited toddler staggered out onto the rocks and slipped. Chances are he would have slid right over the edge and be lost, but death never got a chance, because as soon as the child fell, several fathers leapt from their picnic blankets and ran over the rocks to grab him. This memory I stored under the category called men. Any of these fathers could have also slipped and been hurt, or worse, an injury that could have put their own family in distress. But did they think about that? No. All of them, motivated to save the child that wasn't theirs, ran into the subcategory in my memory called the protectors. I have loads of these categories and subcategories, but the only man that has his own category is my father. My father is a philosopher and a poet, yet you would never know it, because my father was born to a generation of silent men who taught him to keep all his poetry in his head. Every day he walks up a hill near his home in WA and sits on a log I call the altar of Red Church Hill, and he watches Perth wake up. I wrote a poem in which I hoped that one day the Fremantle doctor, a wind, would blow all his poetry out of his head and across the country into my head. He is to me a foundation that I can never live up to, a mountain I could never climb, an ocean I can never swim across nor reach its floor. Now he's spending his last days caring for my mother as she deteriorates first, and he does so with the humility, humour, and the dependability of a stone that has a heart full of love. Before COVID, I was talking to my dad, and we got talking about society's current view of men, and he stopped and said, "Now I'm the enemy." We live in a time where our questions are many and unanswered, and our souls are constantly flabbergasted. It's like some weird reality show slipped out of our TVs and invaded our reality. Yesterday, I was watching a man complaining that although his baby had latched onto his nipple, he wasn't as yet producing milk. Then there's Putin threatening nuclear war, the ever-rising price of food, financial collapse, economic ruin, climate change, and of course, vaccines work and it's for your health. Come and get your booster. But I've been wondering if the reason the COVID cloud found it so easy to smother us was because the powers that be had already disempowered our men. When I was growing up, women's toilets were off-ground, or as we used to call it when in grade 1 we played kiss chasey, barleys. Now I often have women complaining to me that they no longer have a toilet in the city for themselves. To me, If you ask most men, they would agree to call the ladies' toilets for what they are, sacred ground for women's business. When you're out there somewhere with a few friends and the girls go to the pub, you know you have time to get another beer or two. When I was growing up, many pubs had men-only sections, but I feel these spaces were often challenged by women. But I'm okay with female-only places. For I feel women should have their own places where they can go and do whatever, and at the same time I know that the mental health of men of this country would benefit if they had places too that only men could go. Time to unwind, time to be laughed at or laugh at another male while never being judged or judging. A place to be with your brothers who will heal you as you heal them without any woke psychologist ever comprehending how they're doing it. I don't get it. They don't talk. They just whinge, talk big and joke. But that is not true. The language of men is subtle and learned. It's spoken in the form of barely imperceptible nods, in an altering of tone, in cuss words used to convey affection, and in their ability to conceal more trauma than one soul should ever be allowed to bear in nothing other than silence. This is some of my learned mythology of men. But now, thanks to the reactions of my brothers in these last few years, I am questioning it, a lot of it. Never in my time have I experienced such a level of compliance. I have seen and heard men who have previously questioned everything, telling me that sometimes you just don't question, you just do. At first, I managed to process this by seeing these men as soldiers who saw COVID as the enemy. The mask was their weapon, their own houses where they were locked into their trench. They were men fighting to defend their families and their community. I get it. I was briefly caught up in this battle too, until very quickly certain things started not to make sense. And as one thing didn't make sense, suddenly nothing started to make sense. Suddenly I was locked up and watching as all our liberties were removed without a murmur of resistance. And it was now that I called my father, who lives in Perth, and I asked him what he thought of the unfolding events, and he said with a tone deep in thought, "I think they're intending to kill us." "Me too," I said. "Me too." And we were connected. Then a short while later, he went and got himself and my mother jabbed. 3 times they cancelled their appointments, but on the 4th time they did it. Since then, I've heard him holding on to these 2 conflicting views in his head, congratulating me one moment on holding out, then urging me to get jabbed in the next breath, for he doesn't want to see me in hospital on a respirator. I didn't realise then how lonely I was becoming, because around me men were doing things I never thought I'd see. Driven by fear, they started ostracising family and friends. Mates who I thought I'd fought in union campaigns with, men who I took for granted were natural-born renegades, not only decided to comply, but they attacked or cut out of their lives anyone who didn't. And no day highlighted the severity of this ostracisation, I can't say that word, like Christmas. To date, Christmas was a day where family members, even those who spent the entire year out of touch, would come together for a few hours like an awkward prayer to the power of love. Last year, in houses decorated with illuminated Christmas trees and crowned by the Star of Bethlehem, love, or to others God was defeated. A few months later, on Anzac Day, the forces of fear defeated God again. As fear, while wearing all our medals of our fathers and our grandfathers, rested its hand on our betrayed heart and smiled. And although many women were part of this too, the tragedy to me was that the men not only allowed this to pass, but glossed over all the blood of those who had fought and died for freedom with 3 words spoken repeatedly and condescendingly, "Just get jabbed." But another remarkable Christmas day happened in World War I, when along the line, men from both sides emerged from the trenches and played soccer. If you put 100 red ants and 100 black ants in a jar, they will just get on with their ant lives. But if you shake that jar, the red and black ants will attack each other, believing the other side is attacking them. The analogy carries over to all our demographics, blacks and whites, Muslims and Christians, vaccinated and unjabbed. The solution is to pause and try ascertain who is shaking the jar. That Christmas day, on the frozen mud of no man's lands, coated with the broken dreams and blood of their brothers, these men must have realised that they weren't each other's enemy, that they weren't the ones shaking the jar. That was people they'd never met, the rich and the powerful who would never visit these trenches. Back home in their towns and villages, many of these young men probably had women waiting, all of them clutching onto simple dreams of marriage and children as they listened out for the parson turning his bicycle into the street, a telegram of tears tucked into his black pocket. And as these men watched the others kicking the ball, and realised that their noble sacrifice was actually a communal betrayal, they would also have realised that they had all the guns. If they wanted, they could have agreed to stop fighting each other there and then, turned their weapons on the generals and gone home. In Russia this happened, though all that went to shit, and I believe the French soldiers also rose up, but not ours. Instead, they got back into the trenches and started fighting and killing and dying all over again. Why? A good friend who initially was on our side to the point of coming on to the early episodes of Cafe Lockdown and calling the pandemic for what it was, vanished for a few weeks. When I finally got hold of him, he had gone out and gotten jabbed. He was almost 60 and his health was great and he didn't need a job for his house was paid off. And all he could say, which was the last time he spoke to me, was, well, I've always had bosses, eventually you have to do what they say. Since then, I have found out his real boss was his sister, who threatened to excommunicate him from his only family, which was her and her 2 kids, which he utterly adored, unless he complied. My son told me, after studying marketing, that if you ever want to convince Australian men to do something they don't want to do, the marketing word they use to manipulate us is now our favourite word: community. Everywhere I've been bar here, I've been asked one question: where are the men? Our men have been duped, given a false enemy to fight, COVID-19, a uniform to don, the mask, and a weapon to fight with, the vaccine. They were given what most men crave, a purpose to their lives: save our community. But I believe it runs deeper than this. For men have been fighting another war for decades, a war aimed directly at them. And they have fought this war silently and with their hands tied behind their backs. If you use the term toxic to describe any other demographic, there would be an uproar. But masculinity, we've had mothers stating how they are retraining their boys not to be rapists. These young men have had to stand up in front of all the girls in their school and apologise for not only being men, but the sins of us, their fathers. The war's real enemy, mature white males. They have even attempted to remove the title man from our language. In universities, you can lose points for using the word man in your essays. This war has been relentless and effective. Its victims, our outrageous male suicide rate, coupled with men who drink or drug themselves to death, as most of the survivors, us, just stay silent. In The Art of War, Sun Tzu argues that the most successful type of war to wage is one where your opponent doesn't even know he's in a war. Right here, right now, there is a lull in this bullshit COVID show. it is our time to play soccer and ponder as we do who is actually shaking our jar. Now, all through history, these moments have happened. And what they are is a rare point in time where you, my brothers, can choose not to be the number lost in their history, but a member of a movement who came together and redefined and then became history. COVID was an act of marketing genius that blew away all the mythology of this country. Currently, we have no identity, and all our souls are up for grabs. And we have a choice. We can continue to be compliant and let whoever is shaking our jar deeper into totalitarianism, where we will all become a shameful stain in the history of this land, or we can accept the responsibility of our communal destiny and not only take back our beloved country and our God-given freedoms, but give to them the future. Our reward for achieving this is we will get to leave this realm able to call ourselves men. I believe there is a God. What form he takes, or even if he has a gender, I don't know. But what I do know is that you were not born to be slaves. You were born to be you. The tested heroes that one day the sons of our sons will celebrate. History is not written. It's a decision. And right now that decision is ours and crucial. That's why I implore you, not just for the future or for the present, but for yourselves. Shrug off this long marketing more and men and join us and your brave women as together we fight our way back to where we once again can sing a national anthem without its words being, as they are now, a lie. The end.
Another night meet at Traralgon. Fantastic meet. We had Michael from Cafe Lockout speaking about the value of men. And I'll introduce you to some women and see what they thought. All right. And what did you think of tonight's talk?
Just amazing.
How was Michael's speech?
Michael's speech was sensational, and I went up and told him, and I said it brought tears to my eyes.
We need more men like that, don't we?
We need more men.
Yes.
It was absolutely wonderful.
What was the best part about Michael's speech?
The passion and... I don't know what the... Put me on the spot.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah.
But we need more men like that, don't we?
We definitely do.
It's like the father figure we've been missing.
Yeah, damn straight.
Thank you.
Oh, it was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. We need some representation in regards to masculinity. We've been, society's been at war with men for quite some time. It's very hard, and parents trying to bring up men in this society, or young boys bringing them up to men, is quite a challenge because the values are all out of whack. What is the role of a man today? What is an appropriate masculine approach or attitude? It's quite simple. And how do we lead young men? How do we lead young men is another issue of mine. I have 3 young men, and we talk about masculinity all the time. It's an appropriate subject. It's something we open up about how to be an appropriate man. So we need to talk like along those lines. We need speeches like Michael's to highlight this area of masculinity and bring it back to life again, because without man, you have nothing.
We get soy boys.
Correct. But I don't want to take away from our feminine sisters either, because God help us, they are the ones that born us and bred us. Look, we need both sides, left and right, yin and yang.
We need to understand how to be a gentle man.
Yeah, correct. Absolutely. An appropriate man. Appropriate. Sometimes you don't need to be gentle. Sometimes you got to be tough.
That's it.
But we do need to have those discussions. I thought it was brilliant.
Thanks, Noel.
Thank you.
Cheers.
I just admire what he's been doing, going and speaking to people, that have been injured, people that have, everyone's got a story to tell.
Yes.
And he's been going around listening to people and validating them and affirming them. So I really admire that. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Very good, very real, true, and yeah, it's about time more men stood up and be men instead of playing at being boys.
That's right. Boys or soy boys? What do you think, Brett?
Oh, great. Fantastic. It really gives a lot of inspiration. And he really knows what he's talking about. And great, fantastic bloke.
The sincerity is there, and yeah.
The passion, the whole lot.
Yeah, I'll follow him.
Yeah, for sure. What a great bloke. And I actually know the bloke and got to spend a bit of time with him. And he's a really passionate bloke. And yeah, fantastic.
Inspires passion
and
too.
it does, yeah. It inspires people, and that's what it's all about.
Hello. I believe you love talking in microphones.
No, I don't.
Are you telling lies?
Only a little bit. No, I don't like talking in microphones.
Okay.
But I don't mind talking.
Good. Well, pretend it's not here. What did you think of the speech tonight by Michael?
Oh, that was that beautiful sort of poem speech.
Yes.
Brought me to tears.
Isn't it?
It was sort of heartening. One of the things that I did think to myself in late end of 2020 and beginning of 2021, where the hell are our men? And it seemed to me that there was the women were the men. At that time, there seemed to be more women with balls than what there were the men.
Absolutely.
And it was really tragic to think that our men just weren't men anymore. And that they were afraid of so obviously blatant lies. And as soon as they changed the words from coronavirus to COVID, I thought, oh, here we go. And could see all this Agenda 21 and 30 rolling out in front of us. And I thought, right, well, let's see some men stand together. But and be men, there are some. There's absolutely some.
And they're growing. But I think what happened, we're being drunk on sport, the good life, and just forgetting a few beers and just live a simple life. We haven't actually learned to grow up.
No, and that's something, look, I hope men never do grow up. There's something about the little boy in men that's beautiful.
Absolutely.
But there's still the protectors.
Absolutely.
And yes, they are growing in vast amounts of numbers, and it's really refreshing to see. And I think our younger generation, they're going to really lead ahead. They're going to show us. They are going to kick it.
Good.
Yeah, probably not allowed to swear but go blokes.
Good.
What can I say? Go blokes.
What did you think of the speech tonight by Michael about men?
Oh, it's a little boring. Went on a bit, Could have had a few more laughs,
Yeah. It's pretty dry, wasn't it?
Yeah, a lot of people were bored, looking at their phone, I saw Jeremy was on his phone the whole time, just sitting there.
So you weren't embarrassed by people walking out for a smoke and that sort of thing?
No. He's put off putting a bit. But you know what really got me was I was very nervous doing this speech because it means a lot to me. I've come to really love men, not in a gay way, but just have a pride of men and the men that have gone to bring us to here and trying to understand them, the way they talk. And I think it's a time for men to rise up. The feminists had their movement years ago. Now it's a bit crazy.
Right.
I think it's a time for us men to rise up. And it doesn't mean we put women down. It means we take our place. And the world needs us to do that.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Good on you.
No worries.
Thank you very much. You'll be home for that.
Yeah.
And
Man hugs all round.
man hugs.
We'll become the female Jermaine Greers. Actually, do you know something really interesting the other day? We were at the No Goat show. We were at the No Goat show, and we brought up Jermaine Greer. All these women, 40 plus, were going, "Who's that?" And all the men knew who she was.
And did you know Jermaine Greer is against the women's liberation of today?
Yeah, she's against that's why they cancelled her.
Yes.
Yeah, and she's against all the trans stuff and everything like that. So yeah, so I want to interview her. I really love her.
That'd be great.
But it was interesting that the men knew her.
Yes.
But the women didn't. I thought, wow.
Can you remember the first book she wrote?
The Female Eunuch.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, see? We're all fans.
And how did you like the talk?
Really good. No, awesome. I've listened to many of his talks from afar, and pretty inspirational stuff. I was just speaking to him about his true north references, and they really resonate with me. Just look within. The answers are in there.
Absolutely.
It's nice to see your faces. The reason I'm down here tonight is I actually stumbled on Silk Road only in the last fortnight. And so I'm quite inspired by the work you guys are doing, and your face is familiar to me because I watched you and your colleague around a table and just having a bit of a friendly chat.
Yes,
you were just and so I've followed on. I've found the events page and I've ended up here from the Mornington Peninsula, and I'll be back. So and hopefully I'll bring a couple of people. So
Now, what was your dad thinking when he named you Gumby?
No, it's my brother, oldest brother. Oh, actually, the teacher, my oldest brother wore gumboots to first day of primary school. So Gumby's brother, and then just stuck. Like,
Okay.
got nothing
So,
to do with me.
if you have kids, will they be son of Gumby?
Probably, yeah. Unfortunately, it's too late now.
What did you think of the speech today from Michael?
Absolutely, mate. Awesome. I'd love to make an edit to go with the audio, and so I can put it up online and expose it to a lot more people. I thought it's so good. It needs to be taken to a larger audience. Like it's really good.
Absolutely, because you could put in the backdrop some beautiful figures of father-son things, couldn't you?
Yeah. And also the corruption that's been going on. And I got a massive archive of stuff I've been downloading for the last 3 years or whatever. And I'd love to pick and choose from that to put visuals to what he's talking about there. It's powerful stuff. Yeah.
We'd love to see that. What did you think of the men's talk?
Beautiful, loved it.
What was good about it? What inspired you in the speech?
I hope that, I hope that his speech inspires other people to actually stand up.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I think we just need the confidence of someone to make that first speech, and even for a bloke to go and hug another bloke.
Yeah, well,
it's
we've
good.
been doing that for months. So.
That's right, but for the first time, it's very hard, isn't it?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it was inspirational. It was informative, enlightening. No, it was uplifting. I think a lot of people probably needed to hear something like that. We're all kind of down in a rut, and it's good to realise that we don't have to stay down there.
Absolutely. Well done. And also the fact there weren't many young people today, so you're one of the fortunate ones of actually seeing the truth in that.
Yeah. So, no, my generation and the one below, we seem to be getting hit the hardest with all the propaganda. So, I'm a dying breed, I think.
Well, you've got big brothers amongst you, buddy.
Yep.
All right. We're trying to find Carleen for an interview.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Jeremy.
What did you think of the speech tonight by Michael?
Well, how inspiring is that? I'm not a male, but I was watching the men in the audience, and I know that he really hit the spot for them. And I think that it's an inspiration to have him here and to be able to speak those words and show the emotion behind that speech, and hopefully that will now inspire the men of Gippsland to actually stand up and, like I say, put that skin in the game and say enough's enough.
Absolutely. And a couple of times in that speech he was on tears too, wasn't he?
He was.
So close.
He was. Yeah. So we're all carrying that emotion. We are in the fight.
Yes.
We wake up every day. And we're in that battleground every day. So it is quite tiring and quite emotional. But that's what we do. We're here for the kids. We're fighting for the kids. We're fighting for our beautiful country that we love dearly. And I think that has hit the spot.
I thought it was very inspiring. It was wonderful. It was emotional and emotive. And, I thought it was great. Really good. Really enjoyed it.
Brings a bit of a wake-up call for us as blokes, doesn't it? Because quite often those sort of subjects aren't broached.
No, that's true. That's true. But I think now more than ever, it's really important for men to stand up. You know. But I'd like to see a lot more younger men, because we've only got sort of a few.
Just a handful
at the moment. Yeah. So all us old fossils that are standing up.
That's right.
You know what? I loved it, because it took me back to my dad, who was born in Wales, and he was the quiet-spoken man too, and it brought a tear to my eye.
Well, and that's exactly what a couple of other ladies have said too, reminded their father.
He's really deep.
Yes.
I liked it. I enjoyed it.
And also you see how spiritually we are connected to our fathers.
Yes.
We know we already are to our mothers because of the closeness right from birth, but from the fathers, it's like it's a deeper spiritual connection to get in contact with.
You're so right. That's true.
Oh, it was amazing. Amazing. It was so inspirational.
if he was a football coach, they'd just run over everybody. You know, like Max was just gobsmacked, stunned. Yeah, just loved it. Yeah, and it's what we've got to do. You've got to put some fire in some bellies. You know, make men be men.
He's captured exactly what's happened to men, where they've been demasculated, but they now have to step up and grow some balls.
When he came to the shed a couple of weeks ago, he said it's the first time he came to a group where there were mainly men.
Oh, yes.
You know, we had the men's meeting. Because he said all around Australia, it's the women that have got the stories. Women are standing up, and they can see the danger where the blokes aren't anywhere to be seen.
Yeah, but we've got the balls now.
You're talking about you and me or what?
You know, blokes have got older blokes have got the shield we ride attitude, you know, and it's just how it is.
Do you think it's too long of the good life, sport, booze, and take it easy?
Of course. And, you know, there was that, the Arab sheikh or whatever he was, and he said, you know, I drive a Range Rover or a Mercedes or something, and my son will drive a Range Rover.
That's right.
But his, my grandfather rode a camel.
Yes.
And my great-grandson will ride a camel.
That's right. So they said my grandfather came into the village on a camel. My son came in a Rolls Royce. My grandson will come on a Learjet, but his grandson will come on a camel.
And that's it. That's it.
And that's where we are.
We've had it too easy.
And it's right. The women are actually sensing things are collapsing. It's just taking a little bit longer for the blokes, but we'll get there.
Yep. I have faith.
But the thing that really gets me is the deceit of our politicians, and they're the revered ones, you know, the Whitlams and the bloody Bob Hawkes. What did they do to us? Hey?
Sold us out.
Hollywood actors.
Yeah, that's it.
That's all
actors. Good at it.
Yes. Thank you both.
Thank you.
No worries.
Yeah, good. It was good. I enjoyed it. Had some laughs and also started to cry. So
that's good, isn't it?
It hit some.
We hit the real spiritual gut, didn't we, with Michael? Then finished with a laugh with Gumby.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
It was a great night, eh?
It was. It was fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
How about the man talk from Michael?
Oh, it was excellent.
It was
Couldn't have got better, really.
Yeah.
Could have been better.
Yeah.
I mean, he's telling the truth.
Real
isn't he?
man. Real man you are.
He never normally makes speeches. He normally gives interviews. So it took him a while to think of what to say.
Yeah, well, he's done an exceptional job, really, hasn't he?
Absolutely.
You know, he's telling how it is, and that's how it is. You know, I was talking to Joseph before about Michael's speech and how trying to get men to kind of wake up, and we both agree that it's not, in a sense, their fault, because they've been, I suppose, as Michael said in his speech, they've been, it's the toxic masculinity. They've been pushed down. Yeah, I mean, kind of thing, you know what I mean? Brainwashed, and basically taught to, well, just go there, you provide and shut up, really.
That's it.
That's it, you know what I mean? And this thing too, and this is not being, don't get me, I'm not being sexist when I say this, you know, that happy wife, happy life, it's not that, it's got to be equal. You know, I didn't marry my wife to be her servant and vice versa. No. You know what I mean? So I'm not here to make her happy at my expense of happiness and vice versa. You just work together. Yes. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of young men have probably, in some regards, put a rod in their own back and allowed that kind of, benchmark to get higher and higher. I used to say to my wife that I've been with for a long time, I used to say, I wouldn't buy her flowers all the time. I wasn't being mean. But if I brought flowers all the time, then it's expected more and more until it's chocolates and flowers and whatnot, you know what I mean? I'm not saying that would happen, but anyone can be spoiled. And I think blokes now have lost that ability and they're more interested in football and sport and the distractions that have been made to distract us from what's really going on. You know what I mean?
And we've been scapegoats too.
Yeah, they have. Yeah.
I've just come back from Cairns, so I was following the Far North Queensland Police that were doing the lawsuit with Dr. Nikolai Petrovsky. Oh, so that was interesting. They all were forced to have one jab, and they got really sick. So they've had a win. They've getting their wage, and they don't have to have the next jab. after 1.
That's
so
great.
yeah, I've just come back from the Supreme Court in Brisbane with that.
Whoa, there you go. And were you actually there just as a witness, or
Well,
were you supporting?
I was supporting them. I met them up in Cairns, so I've been all winter in Cairns. So yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah. So I didn't even know who they were. I was sitting on the plane with them, and we were talking about COVID, and she said, "Oh, we haven't really had our jab and that." And I'm thinking, then we got talking, and then it was like, "I'm coming with you." So yeah, I met them all, and
isn't that great?
Dr. Nicola
There's a lot more of us out there.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And like we're fighting for the kids. Really, that's it.
That's it.
Our generation.
Well, I think it's going to take some people aren't going to wake up until it's actually on their lap. That's just going to be the case, unfortunately. I think. People are going through different stages. They know something's not right, but then if they admit that something's not right, then they're going to start worrying. Exactly. Confronted by shit. I was talking to Glenn or someone, and he's been saying this. So if that thing's right, what the hell else is right? And it sounds very horrible. So I can see why the best defence for them is to not just deny it. It can't be right. Put your ears in the fingers, because it is confronting.
It can almost be suicidal for them.
Yeah, Operation Bluebeam or Project Bluebeam. Yes, we know them all. And I was shown all this sort of stuff as a child. Yeah,
wow.
My dad was sent from New Zealand to clandestine to Hiroshima before it was bombed. Yeah, so I've seen everything in the photos. Snooping as a kid, and I've never forgot it. Never forgot what I saw. Oh.
What did you think of Michael's speech?
Awesome. Very inspiring for men.
That's good. And actually,
women.
And women. And
yeah.
And your speech at the end. That was lovely. What a heartfelt thing.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, it just brought back so many memories.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we actually need to elevate ourselves to more of a spiritual level too in those areas, because it's actually healing for both sides.
That's right. Yeah. And sharing, hopefully, lets other people know that we've all been there somewhere. We've all got a story. As most of you know, I'd like to say something else. And I did have a little bit to say about the rallies, because they've been going for many, many months now, and I don't know whether we've had rallies that have gone for this long in Australia ever on any issue. So I don't understand how people cannot think that there's something going on. And when I saw what Carleen had put up just before, and that Canberra rally, and I don't know how many of you were there, but oh my God, it brought back so many memories. And just to be standing there watching all those people going through, and what it did for me personally, going from someone that was curled up in her shower in a fetal position because I couldn't contemplate life anymore in this world because of the mandates that were being brought in, and then to later find out that one of my children have now been damaged for life by those mandates, and having to now live every day hoping I don't get that phone call that any mother or any family member will dread. But to stand on that bridge and go from someone that didn't feel like they belonged in this world to stand with so many people, it was just the best feeling, and I will never forget it. And thank you, Carleen, for putting it up and reminding us of that day in April that was just amazing for Australia. So thank you.
All right, that wraps it up for another night at Traralgon. Come along every second Tuesday night and listen to fascinating speakers, fascinating people, and having a great spiritual night as well as an enjoyable night. See you then.